The biggest danger facing America right now isn't the national debt. It's not hormone therapy either. And believe it or not, it's not even the AI bubble on its own. It's energy. But not in the way most people picture it. This isn't about blackouts or a higher power bill. It's that America has shoved its entire stack of chips into the middle of the table, betting the whole economy on one single outcome, that AI actually arrives on time. And energy is the factor that controls that timeline. Right now, AI looks unstoppable. Valuations keep climbing, spending keeps accelerating, and the stock market keeps riding the wave. But if there's one thing capable of popping this bubble, it's energy. And by the time this video ends, I'll show you exactly why. First, though, let's talk about how big this bet actually is, because calling it a gamble on the whole economy isn't an exaggeration. In 2024, the largest tech company spent just over $200 billion building out AI infrastructure. In 2025, that jumped to nearly $400 billion. This year, their own projections put it above $700 billion. So this isn't just growth. Spending is roughly doubling year after year, and that spending is what's propping up the broader economy. The concentration we're seeing in tech stocks right now isn't subtle at all. It's basically shouting bubble at the top of its lungs. Last quarter, AI made up more than half of America's entire real GDP growth. George Saravelos, Deutsche Bank's head of FX research, told clients that AI-driven spending seems to be the thing keeping the U.S. economy afloat right now, adding that without it, the country would likely be flirting with a recession this year. But chances are you've already heard this part. You've probably seen the AI is a bubble take 100 times over. Here's the problem with basically all of those takes, though. They're focused on the wrong question entirely. They argue about whether AI is a passing fad or the real deal, whether it'll actually reshape every industry, and whether a chatbot that can't count letters in the word strawberry is somehow coming for your job. None of that is the question that matters. The real bet isn't whether AI actually works. It's whether we can physically build it out fast enough, whether the AI-powered future can show up quickly enough to justify the absurd prices being paid for it right now. Because money is pouring into AI faster than almost anything we've ever seen. It's the biggest, fastest build-out in history. And yet, virtually nobody is turning a profit on it yet. For now, that's not a deal breaker. Investors are perfectly happy funding losses as long as they believe a payday is coming eventually. But sooner or later, the investors, the companies, and everyone lending money into this system need that payoff to materialize. At some point, the capital has to come back around with real returns. That's the actual mechanism behind how this bubble bursts. It's not that AI fails, it's that it's late. It's when the money backing all of this gets tired of waiting and starts looking elsewhere. So what actually determines whether AI shows up on schedule? And what decides whether these trillions poured in by big tech ever pay off? There's a second clock too, one that determines how long we can realistically afford to keep waiting. We'll get into that one later because honestly, it's the scarier of the two. Let's start with the first. Whenever a major tech breakthrough hits, like AI has, Wall Street loves trotting out that same old Mark Twain line, "Don't bet on the miners, buy the picks and shovels instead." Honestly, that quote gets more mileage than the man in the arena speech does in a one-bedroom San Francisco apartment crammed with 4 founders vibe coding an AI app. What that advice really means is don't waste time guessing which chatbot wins. Just invest in what powers the whole boom underneath it. The data centers, the electricity, the infrastructure. But here's the part nobody tells you when they hand out that advice. America is actually running low on picks and shovels because building a data center isn't as simple as it sounds. You can't just plug into the grid and ask nicely for power. Every data center has to get in line, literally, through something called an interconnection queue. Think of it as the DMV, except for electricity, and instead of measuring wait times in bad attitudes and wasted hours, it's measured in years of regulatory red tape. In America's largest power grid, that wait has stretched from under 2 years, back in 2008, to more than 8 years today. And the queue is only the beginning of the trouble. Because AI data centers don't consume power the way a regular office building does. Busy during the day, quiet at night, dead on weekends. Data centers run flat out, 24 hours a day, every single day of the year. They already consume more than 4% of all electricity used in America, and by 2035, that figure is projected to climb to a full fifth of the country's total consumption. The main engine driving all of this is a strange-looking piece of machinery, the gas turbine, and that's where things get even trickier. Gas turbines generate roughly 40% of America's electricity, and they're among the most complicated machines humans have ever built. Only a small handful of companies can even manufacture them. 3 manufacturers control more than 3/4 of the global market. One of them, GE Vernova, has watched its order backlog swell from around 80 gigawatts to 116, and its own CEO admits the company is essentially booked solid through the end of 2028. In 2024 alone, developers ordered nearly triple the turbine capacity that every factory on the planet could physically produce in a full year. Which means it doesn't matter how many zeros big tech is willing to write on a check, the manufacturers themselves are physically capped. And it's not just turbines either. Transformers, the equipment that steps power down from the grid, now take more than 2.5 years to obtain, with an estimated 30% shortage in supply. New transmission lines average 6.5 years to complete, thanks to permitting delays, backlogs, and a mountain of other roadblocks. So this isn't one bottlenecked waiting line. It's the entire American energy supply chain jammed up at once. Tech is moving at Netflix speed while the infrastructure underneath it is crawling along at blockbuster speed, and that gap is pushing companies caught in between into some pretty desperate moves. 2 developers reportedly shelled out $25 million just to hold a spot in line for a turbine, not to actually buy one. Others are literally retrofitting decommissioned jet engines to cobble together the power they need. We're watching massive, profitable companies bolt old aircraft engines to the ground because they're that desperate for electricity. The obvious solution is probably what you're already thinking. Just build more capacity. Big tech is famous for throwing money at problems, so why not throw money at this one until things speed up? Well, we've actually already run that experiment and the money lost. Remember that 8-year wait just to connect to the grid? That belongs to a grid operator called PJM Interconnection, the largest in the country, serving 67 million people across 13 states from Chicago to Washington, D.C. That's roughly 1 in 5 Americans. If you live anywhere inside that footprint, your power is on because of decisions this organization makes. And the single biggest decision PJM makes every year happens at an event almost nobody pays attention to: the capacity auction. Here's how it functions. PJM isn't just buying electricity, it's buying guarantees. Once a year, it holds an auction to pay power plants to promise they'll have electricity ready on the worst days of the year. Think of it as a billion-dollar pinky promise that the lights stay on during a January cold snap or an August heat wave, basically an insurance policy. They pay a premium so the grid doesn't collapse exactly when it's needed most. For most of this century, that insurance was practically free because American electricity demand barely budged for 2 decades. That made the capacity auction one of the most boring events in American finance. In the auction covering 2024, a promise of power cleared at roughly $29 per megawatt day. Then the data centers showed up, not one at a time, but by the dozens, each one gulping down as much power as a small city, all arriving inside a system built for a world where demand hardly grew. And these data centers don't want power someday. They want it now, guaranteed, indefinitely. The very next auction cleared at almost $270, an increase of more than 800%. The regional bill jumped from $2.2 billion to $14.7 billion. Same promise, 7 times the price, the largest jump since the capacity market was created back in 2007.
And that's where we'll leave it for part 1. But the story doesn't end here. I'll see you in part 2. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.